Hello, everyone. Welcome to Catherine Biroy Show. I'm your host, Catherine Biroy, and today I am absolutely delighted to have one and only Anna Grace Taylor with me. He is an internationally known angel therapist, spiritual mentor, healer, singer, and speaker, and author of her new best selling book, Messages of Grace 111 Notes of Love and Guidance from Your Angels. Using her natural intuitive gifts, developed by years of training and experience, Anna connects with divine love and guidance to support people with all aspects of life and often acts as a catalyst for transformation for people all over the world. Welcome, Anna. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Tell me a little bit about how you actually came in contact with angels.
Yes, I didn't grow up in a household who talked about angels or energy, but when I was a teenager, I actually became very sick. After some surgery I had, I was born 11 weeks prematurely with my twin sister. So we weren't expected to survive at that point. It was 40 years ago, and we were very, very tiny. And we did, obviously. We were very lucky. But by the time I was about 18 months old, I wasn't walking, I wasn't crawling, I wasn't doing the natural things. The only thing that I could do that my sister was doing was talking, interestingly. Um, and so I was quickly diagnosed with cerebral palsy affecting my legs, which still to this day means that I walk with crutches and sometimes use a wheelchair. And when I was a teenager, I had surgery to help my mobility, which it did. It did help it in lots of ways. But what happened was, is my immune system crashed. I became really sick, and I went on this search for alternative ways to help myself. So I saw a massage therapist, a reflexologist. I went to see a Reiki healer and different people that were all talking to me about energy and spirituality. So by the time I was 15, 16, 17, I was having all these kinds of conversations about how the body works, how I could feel someone's energy. I was always very sensitive, so I could walk into a room and feel what was going on. And so by the time I was 20 years old, even though I was still pretty unwell, I'd had all of these different experiences. And one night, after a really difficult time, in fact, I talk about it in my new book in the introduction, I'd actually had a really wonderful, joyous experience of meeting one of my heroes at the time, Robbie Williams, the singer. And I was so joyful and grateful and excited. So it may be that my energy was just lifted in that beautiful space, and he was such a special person to me at that time. I closed my eyes in my room, was about to go to sleep, and I saw this huge light in my room. It was golden and pink and just the most incredible love and peace that I'd ever felt. In fact, as I always say to people, you can't really describe it, because if you can describe it, it's not that. There's no real words to describe what that
Mhm,
is.
mhm.
Um, and it took me on this path to understand, like, oh, it's not just that they exist, but they can help me. And so I started to learn about them. I took an angel therapy practitioner course about a year or two later, and I met amazing people, some of them who are friends of mine today. My Within a week of doing that course, I learned different techniques that completely changed my health and my energy, and became the reason why I do what I do now. So it's not just a job for me. It was because I loved it. It's because it became such an instrumental part of my own life. So yes, it's my work, but it's also very much a part of my life, and the angels are just part of my existence. So I can't really separate it from my job. It's just what I happen to share.
We never spoke about this, but now when I hear your story, actually, I had a very similar experience when I was diagnosed with the Coxsackie virus 12 years ago.
Mhm.
And they told me I might live just year and a half. So my mom took me to monastery, and I had a very similar experience the first night I was sleeping there.
Right.
But I didn't get it at the time, you
Right. You
know.
were like,
Like, what was this? But
Yeah.
yeah, I did. People usually know me from that business perspective, but I went to Human Universal Academy of Energy back then, trying to help myself. And as you can see, 12 years after that, I'm still here. And
Yes, I remember you talking a little bit about that. I
yeah.
remember hearing some of your story. And yeah, I do think that, not in all cases, but I think in a lot of cases when people have some kind of awakening experience or an experience that makes them realize that there's more to life than this body that we're experiencing, most people it's because they're having a challenging time or because they are asking different questions that they've asked. So yeah, I usually say, to me, it's part of what opens someone up usually, isn't it, when we're
Yeah.
going like, there must be more to life than this, help me. And even the prayer, because the angels can't really help us unless we ask, even if it's not consciously asking angels to help.
Mhm.
We're sometimes
Mhm.
saying, help me, or show me, or whoever you are, or God, or spirit, or whoever it is, like, show me. And there's some sort of moment where they go, okay. So and that doesn't mean that everyone sees them, and I don't always see them even now, but there is a feeling that you're tapping into something other than yourself, isn't there?
Yeah, and it feels good. I mean, at the beginning, it's a little bit confusing, but
Yes. Yeah.
uh, like later, it's much. You turned 40
Yes.
recently.
Yes.
I'm a year younger, so
Ah,
yeah.
welcome. Almost, almost. I can tell you it's pretty good. Yeah.
So what are the most valuable experiences that you treasure from your life?
Yeah, well, I think really going back to what I just said is that in the really hard experiences that I've had, I've also been really clear about who I am from a very young age. I've learned a lot about myself. I know what's important to me. I also know what's important in life because I've had those really difficult times. And I also have yeah, I would say my values are very strong. I don't need somebody else to believe what I believe. I don't have a feeling of needing to be like another person. Not That's not to say that I don't sometimes compare myself. Of course, we all do, but I feel like it's given me a deep sense of um, clarity about who I am, and also because I know pain, because I know suffering, I also really feel deep joy and deep love as well. And that also to me is a big part of when I meet someone, usually who is very connected or wanting to go into that deep place. It's because there's that contrast, isn't there, of knowing the difference. So yeah, and that in that way I wouldn't change any of it. I really wouldn't change any of it, because feeling those experiences deeply allows me to do what I do now. So I wouldn't be having this conversation with you if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, yeah, very beautiful. Um, I'd like to share a little bit more about your book, which you
Sure.
published recently. So, if you would like to tell us a little bit more and maybe read one of the
Yeah,
messages,
I was going to say,
what do you think
for
about
those of you watching on the video,
it?
here's the book, Messages of Grace, 111 Notes of Love and Guidance. It's to me, I mean, I wanted it to be a book, but I also really wanted it to be an oracle. So you
Mhm.
don't have to, read from page one and then go through the whole book. In fact, I really recommend that you don't do that. I would say it's a really lovely way to connect with your angels, even if angels are completely new to you, because you can literally say, okay, angels, give me a message. What would you like me to know? Or in this case, what would you like listeners of Catherine's podcast to know right now? And I'm going to flip the book open.
I can't wait to hear that.
I'm going to flip the book open and give a message, which actually is really beautiful, especially after what we talked about. It's number 48 and it's called A Big Hug. If you are feeling sad today, be kind to yourself. Take some time to be quiet, cry, write in your journal, go for a walk. Whatever you need, it's okay to reach out for help too, because you all have days that are challenging. In the meantime, consider yourself hugged by all of us. We love you. your angels.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
it's like giving yourself a big hug, especially right now. We've all had quite a challenging time. It's been, an intense winter, I think, and there's a lot of people out there that really missing physical hugs. So let's give ourselves a big hug, even if we can't hug each other right now. And also, just as a really simple exercise, if you've never connected to the angels, just ask them to come closer to you. Ask them to help you to feel their presence, or even ask them to give you a hug right now, and just feel into what that might be like. You can even imagine wings wrapped around you. I used to do that a lot when I was feeling unwell, and even just the thought of that made me feel safer. So do that if you can, as a practice, and it can be a really comforting thing. Yeah.
Interesting. I was talking to a friend just before our call, and she had a very, very challenging day. And
Mm.
this is very close to what I've told her. And now you opened the book and you read this message. So I will make sure that she
So
listens.
let her know that that's for her as well. Yeah.
What does spirituality means to you, actually?
It means love.
Mm,
Love. To me, there are all sorts of different things that we can practice, and people might believe one thing and somebody else might believe another, or we might have spent our time, in meditation or in prayer. But whatever that might be for us, to me, it's always coming back to the reminder that we are love, and that any form of the divine to me is love. And if it's not, then you want to really ask yourself, perhaps that's a human belief that has been created
mm,
to keep us fearful, to keep us in control, to keep us feeling separate, because our ego, which is our fear, our mind, will
mm,
always have us either believe that we are better than someone or less than someone, right? If we're having a bad day, it's usually based on one of those things, right?
mm,
Or because we have suddenly decided that we have all the answers, or that we know nothing and that we're worthless, or whatever it might be,
uh-huh,
right? But if we actually come back to that place of love, and we remember that we are all equal in the eyes of the divine, and that we're all lovable, to me it's like, oh, okay, like that whatever else we believe, whatever else that might make us feel different, or have a different experience, to me, as long as it comes back to that love, then it's all okay, isn't it? So I have to say that some of the work that I have to do within myself, if I go into judgment, is because I've experienced that love so much, because
mhm,
I really have felt that love so much. It upsets me a lot when people use spirituality or religion to judge others, or
mhm,
to make someone wrong for not believing as they do, or
mhm.
to feel like somebody's going to hell, or to, be really super mean in the name of spirituality. It's like, it's the biggest ironic thing that you could ever imagine,
Exactly.
so I find that really challenging, because I felt so much love, and there's so much, it's a reason always. People use it as a reason to make other people wrong, or
Mhm,
to put someone so afraid
mhm,
of something that is deeply loving. So my work for not being
mhm.
judgmental is to remember that everyone's having their experience, but to me, for sure, it's all love.
It's
Yeah.
all love. Yeah, I love that. And actually, as I said, people know me mostly from my business side of the work, but nothing happened, nothing transformational happened until I've actually experienced all these
Mm.
spiritual nudges which are
Yeah.
guiding me
Yeah,
through
because
through
it's
this.
you're guided through it. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything that I do has that kind of aspect all over the place. So people ask me, "You are talking about that on LinkedIn?" Exactly, especially there because people need that there,
Mm.
and they're in business mindset and they struggle and they really don't have to because the love is the solution for everything.
Mm.
Just wait, and don't connect love in that kind of a way usually in everyday life. So I believe
No.
that the understanding of love is not
Yeah, it doesn't
what
have
the
to be the
love truly.
fluffy pink, like everything is
Yeah.
great all the time, or, that you have to think of it as relationship. A lot of people, when you talk of
Mm,
love, especially we're recording this, really near Valentine's Day, and people get really confused by that. As soon as I post about love, they're like, oh, but I don't have love. And you're like, you are love. What are you talking about? You are love. You are that love. There is always love. So we can have the human experience of love. And of course,
mhm,
that is an extension of that, because the more tapped into that love within you, the more that you get that reflected back to you. But when
mhm.
I talk about love, I mean love that is deep and profound and unchangeable and unconditional. And as humans, we're used to condition, aren't we? Of like, I'm only going to love you if you're like this. But when we talk about real, deep, deep, true love,
Mhm.
that is way beyond all of those things. So yeah, you're right, and you're totally right that in business and the corporate world and in our worldwide arena, that's where it's most needed, right? Is to
Exactly.
remind people of love,
Just a
because
little bit of love and kindness would change everything.
absolutely everything.
Mm.
Yeah, if we actually remembered that being kind and being loving is the number one aspect of whatever it is you're doing. And by the way, including yourself in that love, because
Exactly.
why are you separate from that love? You're not, you can be the most loving person, but if you're not including yourself in that, as somebody said to me a long time ago, you're not that loving. And that was a massive wake up call for me. I was like,
Seriously, to
yeah,
you?
no, but it's true, right? Because if we don't include ourselves in that love that we say we're so loving, then really what we're doing is being part of that separation, aren't we? Now, I'm not saying you have to think yourself as a perfect being all the time. And again, if we're feeling sad, again, part of that is to give ourselves a big hug and remember that we're not perfect. But the love that we at least can tap into has to include ourselves in some way,
Mm,
even if it's how can I be more self-kind. You don't even have
mm,
to see it as, oh, I love myself. It's how can I be kind to myself today? What could I do to myself, or how could I talk to myself as I would a friend, as I would Catherine right now? What would I say to myself in that moment? It doesn't always work, of course. We're going to have those days that's really hard, but it's getting into that practice so that we don't have to see it as, oh, well, if I don't have a partner, if I don't have loads of friends, then I'm not in a loving space. Oh no, because they're just the extension of love in your life, right?
I love this because a few days ago I was watching one video. I think it's called The Egg. When one guy dies and he goes to the sky, however, and he's like, "Where is everyone else?" And there is no one else. It's just you. But how do you mean just me? I mean, where are other guys? No, it's just you. Like, and on the Earth experience, all you. You mean
It's all, yeah.
I was Hitler and all the millions he killed? I mean, I was also, yeah, like changing the
It's
perspective of actually embracing everyone in our life like our own selves. But to do that, we need to be connected with ourselves and with our heart,
right. And
right?
so, and that's what I was saying to another friend yesterday is, if your experience, especially growing up, and this, if you've had a particular experience growing up and you haven't been surrounded by love and kindness, what can happen is your really core belief is that the world is an unloving place, that I'm unlovable, that nobody loves me, that I don't deserve, whatever it is. I've been very fortunate that I have had a lot of love in my life. And so I know I come from a privileged space in that way. But my experience, the more that I spend time with loving people and the more that I see myself in that way, I actually have very little experience of anything else. That if I do come across something that feels harsh or mean, or
Mm.
it's very fleeting, and I don't spend any energy on it because that's the world that I have chosen to focus on. And that's not any judgment against anyone who's had a painful experience, because I know that I'm very fortunate. But what I've also understood, for me, the younger part of me, that was always trying to please other people or make sure everyone was okay, or like, oh, do they like me, or is this, am I being too much, or all the parts of me that just wanted approval. When I dropped that, I realized, like, oh, there are people like me. There are people that are really kind and supportive and loving like me, because I wasn't looking for it all the time. I wasn't working so hard. So yeah, there's a real balance there, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will be a little bit vulnerable now, because I will share what I said when we started this recording. I just feel I need to do that, because if people feel this weird energy, it's me. Because
You're doing great, Catherine. You're doing so great.
we are not even close to the end. Guys, I said that I feel like I'm sitting with Oprah. That's the point. I was shaking. I don't know why. I know Anna from online world like several years and all of that, but I knew that she is going to share messages which I deeply resonate with and are not so usual for the people I'm talking to. And I think that they need it the most, because now I also openly can say that absolutely nothing changed in my life until I started to change for myself.
Yeah.
As you said, you were loved. I had very different experiences, and I needed to work on myself for years and years. That even included hypnotherapy for 32 days in a row, just to make my mind silenced and to connect with my own self. That was the moment when things started to work. In every aspect of my life. Until then, I was struggling in every field. I was trying, and I just wasn't myself. When I
and I really honor that. I really honor that. And for me, it's been in my body, because my challenges have come from my body. But you're right. It's a hard thing, isn't it, to have to sit and go, wow, there's so much here and so much me that I've been not connecting with. And then when you do that, and it can take, like we're talking about as if this takes 5 minutes. No.
For me, it's what, 14 years.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. To really go that is your intention, that you want to connect, first of all, more deeply with yourself, and to be willing to look at that pain, and to be willing to, to face yourself in a way, is a big deal. But when you do that, the rewards are great, aren't they?
Yeah, and I don't feel nervous anymore. Just
I was going to say, and I just want to say also, that is so sweet. But again, and I take it as a great big compliment, because I love Oprah. Like, she's one of the people that I would definitely want to talk to and feel that way about. But also, I think sometimes when we admire people, just reflecting that back to you is that, and I want to say thank you, because I'll take that as a big compliment, but also is that the reason why you feel that way is because you resonate with what I'm sharing, and you can see and feel some of that within you. Because otherwise, if I said, if you might say, or your husband might say, or something, oh, I really admire this person, and I wouldn't have a clue who they were. That's not to say that they're not a good person, but I wouldn't feel nervous around that person, because I wouldn't have a clue who they were. I wouldn't have any interest perhaps in what he has an interest in. And there would be no sort of reason for me to feel that as an admirable person. But the reason why we could admire someone is because their qualities are things that we also really value. So I also see that as a good reminder to you that you're just the same.
Thank you so much. Actually, I was like, I feel like a baby on that spiritual journey, and Anna is over there, so that's the point.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with feeling that, and yet also, just as we said, ultimately we're all the same. The only thing that I will say is that, and actually it's one of the messages in the book, in fact I think it's right near the end, that we're all spiritual. We are all spiritual beings. the difference is that some of us are more aware of that,
Mm.
right? That's the only difference, and therefore there is no difference between us inherently. It's just that there has been more of an awareness of that over time.
Exactly.
But there's no actual difference, and it doesn't mean that you're not deeply loving and kind and beautiful. It's just, this is what I do every day as well, so I talk to people about this all the time, and it comes across maybe in a more eloquent way, but there's absolutely no
I talk about business strategies, so that's kind
exactly.
of
I was going to say,
tone.
and do you know what, Catherine? I was going to say, talking of that, I was also, going, oh my goodness, I really need some help with my business strategy, because that is also not my lane. So I really admire you for being clear and present with all of that and being able to bridge the gap. So we all of that to say is that we're all equal, but we also all have our individual gifts. Some of us can play the piano, some of us can talk to lots of people, some of us are really great with money, some of us are amazing mothers, some of us do all of those things, but we all have beautiful things that we share. And if we can start to acknowledge that, we can just see it as a big orchestra coming together, and we don't have to try to be, I don't need to be like you. I can admire you and go, wow, actually I'd like to be a bit better at that, like Catherine is, but I can still do that in my way, and so can you do it in your way. So yeah, isn't it fascinating? And that's why we live on a planet with 7 billion people, I guess.
What a huge orchestra. Now we're going to have some fun. Like until now we didn't, right? I'm going to ask you very quick questions. And you have 10 seconds to answer to me. You will hear the ring bell like this when the time is up. Just pressure you a little bit.
Okay, I'll be ready. I'm ready.
Very easy. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book? I would say my favorite book in recent times, just because I love it so much, is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Absolutely love her. She is an incredible author, and she says things that are so profound as a woman.
I will not interrupt you because I would like to know a little bit more. Why?
She's a mother. She was really unhappy in her marriage, but she was staying in her marriage for her children. And then she looked at her daughter one day as like, would I want this marriage for my daughter? Well, why am I staying in the marriage for my daughter when I wouldn't want the same thing for her? She changed her life, and she's just, the way she writes, she's very sensitive, she's very empathic. She talks about intuition, she talks about being an untamed woman, which is really being authentically and truthfully who we are. I recommend it to all women. In fact, I recommend it to all people. You don't even have to be a woman, but it's very powerful and it's really easy to read. I read it, it was the quickest book I'd ever read. I read it right at the beginning of lockdown last year, so nearly a year ago. Absolutely loved it.
Beautiful, beautiful. What do you like to do in your spare time?
Sing.
That was like 2 seconds.
Sing. Yeah, let's just say that. I love singing, and I'm singing all the time.
What would be your advice for people who are like starting the spiritual journey? They start to be aware of that.
Everything we just said in this conversation, plus listen. Take some time to listen, because quite often we might be like, oh, I really want to have that experience, or I want to feel more connected. But how often do we actually just sit and maybe ask a question, or say, hey, angels or spirit or whoever or whatever you believe in, and then actually listen? A lot of the time we're rushing around trying to get everything done, but not taking the time to listen. So ask and then listen.
That's so true. Beautiful. Tell us a little bit more about your book, where people can find you, where people can reach out to you. And you have a free gift for my audience.
I do. Well, so first of all, AnnaGraceTaylor.com is my website. And on the homepage, there'll be a little button there that you can enter your name and email to receive the free Guardian Angel meditation. So if you want to use that meditation to start your connection, that's a beautiful thing to do. And also you'll find links there to my Facebook, my Instagram, where I'm most most visible every day. And you'll also find details of my book, Messages of Grace, but you can go directly to Amazon
Mhm.
and find the book. It's either as an instant download ebook, so if you like something where you can just pick it up and not have to wait, then do that. I personally would recommend the paperback though, because you can use it as a journal and also as an oracle, as I suggested before. So yeah, go and check it out. There's some really lovely reviews on there, so don't take my word for it. Go and read the reviews and see what people say. But mostly I hope that people feel more connected to their angels through that book.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being my guest. I truly enjoyed, and I hope you did too.
Oh, I absolutely did. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Bye.
Bye bye.